Hello and welcome to lesson 10 of the Mom's Taxi app. Lesson 10 and also the final lesson. Today we're going to conclude our app. Now, for those of you that were wondering, what is that language that we're using to do those event listeners and things, and what is the language we're going to be coding today? That language is known as JavaScript, and it's one of the most popular languages in the world. It's not only used for websites, it's also used for mobile apps, for data analytics, and even in some cases for artificial intelligence. Now today, we're going to continue and conclude our app. So without any delays, let's get down to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fix that spacing issue. If you look at the output of the completed app versus our app, there's a spacing issue. So that's actually very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to the form in our HTML, and after the first label and input, we're going to put in 3 line break tags. So you put in those, refresh, and there's that spacing issue sorted. Now let's get back into our code. Now you remember yesterday we discussed that we don't want the page to refresh. So for example, if the user puts in amounts and hits go, we don't want these to be blanked. But that's currently the behavior of our app. When we click the go button, it's blanking out those fields. Now we're going to start by fixing that. So we go in and we put in the letter E right there inside the calculate amount function that we created. And next we do e.prevent default. Can you see the suggestion that brackets is giving us? So you just hit enter there, prevent default, and you put in your open and close brackets and a semicolon. Now if you save this and refresh in the browser and then test it, so let's put in some sample amounts and click on the go button. See what happens? The values don't disappear. So this line takes care of that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create what are known in programming languages as variables. Now a variable is actually you can imagine it as a box in the computer's memory where we put in some information. So it's a little box that has a name that we put some information in. And the variable that we're going to start creating is called monthly amount. So you declare a variable using the var, V-A-R keyword, and this is the name of our variable. So think about it like this. We've now created a box in the computer's memory, and that box has a name written on it, and that name is monthly amount. And then we put a value in it. So we put a value inside the box by using the equals to sign. And what value are we going to put into it? We're going to type in this parseInt document dot get element by ID amount. Oops, I forgot the double quotes. You need the double quotes, amount, and after the double quotes and after that bracket, you put in dot value. Now what's going on here? What's going on is, like I said, we're creating this variable and we're giving it a name, and this is what we are putting into that variable. So think about that box in the computer's memory. This line is deciding what value is going to go inside that variable. And what's going on here? ParseInt basically is creating what is known as an integer, a number. You see, JavaScript and other programming languages can only work with numbers. So we are saying to JavaScript that what we are putting inside monthly amount is going to be a number. So it can't do calculations on text, for example. It can only do calculations on numbers. And then you've come across this before, document.getElement by ID. Now, what is this? It means go back to the HTML. Somewhere in the document, there's an element that has the ID called amount. Now, let's look for that one. And there it is. So whatever is inside this input box, whatever the user types inside this input box will be given the ID of amount. So we're saying get that value, dot value, and convert it into a number and put it into this box, monthly amount. All right, so that's the first variable. The second variable we're going to create is called days. Days is equal to, it's going to be almost identical to what we put into monthly amount. So we type parse int document dot get element by ID, and we put in the double quotes. Now, what are we going to put inside there? Can you figure out what we're going to put inside there? Days, what ID are we going to put? Which element are we targeting here? Obviously, we are targeting an element that has the ID days. So we're going to put days inside there. And we're saying dot get its value. And then you finish that off with a semicolon. Now, if you run this code in your browser, you won't find anything on your screen. These are all background processes. These are things that are happening behind the scenes of your app. There's no output here. And then we're going to create one more variable. And we're going to call this one final val. Let's call it final value. That's better. Final value is equal to, and this is where we're going to do the calculation. So the calculation is going to look like this: monthly amount divided by 22, because that's 22 working days in a month, times number of days. And there we go. That is the actual calculation that's going to give us our final result. So monthly amount, how much does the Mums Taxi charge the student for a month? Take that amount, divide it by 22 days, and then you'll get your per day amount. And then you take that per day amount and you multiply it by the total number of actual days that Mums Taxi will be servicing this particular client. Fantastic. Now that we have the value, we need to output that value to the screen. Now, where are we going to output that? Now, do you remember we made this empty box here, this empty output box? Well, we're going to use that one. So we're going to say document dot get element by ID. What is this guy's ID? It's output, and we're going to call it output, and we're going to say inner HTML. Now this function, inner HTML, this instruction tells our browser to take a value and put it inside this tag here. So the inner HTML is going to be, we put in the symbol for rands, because we're working in South African rands, plus final value dot to fixed 2. Now what is this? What is this going on here? To fix 2 means show 2 decimal points after the comma. So you got your rands and your cents. So it will show you the amount in rands and cents. So if you're working with dollars, in dollars and cents. And then the symbol is there. If you need to work with dollars, then you'll simply change that symbol from rands to dollars. And that's about it, folks. That is the background of our app. That's the coding that is going to kick in when we click the go button. Now let's see if this works or if we have any bugs. Back in our code, let's refresh. Let's check that we've saved. Yes, we've saved our work. And let's say the amount, the monthly charge is 100 rands, divided by 10 days, hit go, and fantastic, we got the output. And with that, our app is now complete. Fantastic. You've just built a complete mobile app. Give yourself a pat on the back. I hope you enjoyed this challenge, and I'll catch you in the next coding challenge.